everyone, Brienne here from Hooked on Homemade Happiness. Welcome back to my channel. Today in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to crochet the Tunisian crossed stitch. This is more of an intermediate level stitch. If you are a beginner or new to Tunisian crochet, I have a video linked below that you can check out first, and then maybe you can come on back and try the Tunisian crossed stitch. This stitch is a variation of the Tunisian simple stitch. There is a little bit of curl in it, but not much. So it's a really neat stitch to add to your Tunisian inventory. For this stitch, I will be using a J 6mm corded Tunisian crochet hook and some worsted weight yarn. So we'll get started by getting our yarn on our hook and making a chain of an even number. So for this tutorial, I am going to chain 10, but any even number will work for this stitch. So here I have my starting chain. I'm going to do my foundation row, and for this stitch we'll just do a regular Tunisian foundation row. So I'm going to start in the second chain from the hook here in this back bump, where I will insert my hook and then yarn over and pull up a loop, and then leave that loop on the hook for our forward pass. I'm going to do that all the way across my chain. So here is my first forward pass. You should have the same number of stitches on your hook as chains that you started with. So now we will do the return pass, where we will chain 1 and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops on your hook. And repeat that all the way across the row until just 1 loop remains. So here is row 1. Now I'm going to start the Tunisian crossed stitch. And this stitch consists of Tunisian simple stitches. And we're just going to be crossing them over each other. So we already have our first stitch on our hook. And here's our next one. We're going to skip the next stitch here. And we're going to start here in the third stitch. And I'm going to do a simple stitch. So I'm going to skip this first one and go to the next. Insert my hook into that vertical bar and yarn over and pull up a loop. And you want to keep it a little loose. So you might want to pull it up a bit to a good height. Now I'm going to work into that skipped stitch. I'm going to go back to this vertical bar that I skipped and insert my hook there, and then yarn over and pull up a loop. So it's going to create this X shape on my for my fabric. So I'm going to skip the next stitch and simple stitch in the next. So I'm going to insert my hook into that vertical bar and yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I'm going to make a simple stitch in that skipped stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook into the skipped vertical bar and yarn over and pull up a loop. Skip the next stitch and then simple stitch in the next. Pull up that loop and then simple stitch in the skipped stitch here. Insert my hook into that vertical bar and then yarn over and pull up a loop. Again, skip the next stitch, simple stitch in the next, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then simple stitch in that skipped stitch. And then now to my edge stitch, where I will insert my hook into both of these loops along the side here and yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I'm going to do my return pass. So return pass with a chain 1, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops on the hook, and repeat that all the way across until just 1 loop remains. And there you have row 2, which is the first row of the crossed Tunisian stitch. And that row 2 is the stitch repeat for this pattern. So we'll repeat it together one more time. So again, I already have my first stitch on the hook. I'm going to skip the next one and simple stitch here in the next, in the third stitch. Simple stitch in the third stitch, yarn over, pull up that loop, and then simple stitch in my skipped stitch here. Again, you'll want to keep these loops on your hook a little bit loose since you're going to be crossing them over each other. So skip the next stitch, simple stitch in the next, and then simple stitch in your skipped stitch. Skip the next stitch, simple stitch in the next. Oops, not both of them. There we go. And then simple stitch in the skipped stitch here. Skip the next stitch, simple stitch here in the next. And then simple stitch in your skipped stitch here. And you can see that crossed stitch start to form. And then here's our edge stitch, where I will insert my hook with both of those loops and yarn over and pull up a loop. And now return pass, chain 1, and then yarn over and pull through 2 across the row. And there you have the Tunisian crossed stitch. Create these cute little X shapes across your work, and it creates just a cool little texture. So go ahead and repeat that row until your project is the length you're looking for, and then come on back and we will bind off our project. So here I have repeated that row a couple more times to give a better look at what this stitch will look like worked up. So now we're going to bind off our project so that we can close up these stitches across the top. So I'm just going to do a regular bind off across the top. You could do the crossed pattern if you wanted to across the top. I'm just going to go straight across, starting with the second stitch, I guess technically, right here, the very next stitch, where I'm going to insert my hook and pull the yarn through that vertical bar and through the loop on my hook to slip stitch across the top. I'm going to do that all the way across my row, closing up these stitches. And you could do these in the crossed pattern if you wanted to keep up the pattern across all the way to the top. I'm just going to go across the top of my row. Here's my last vertical bar. And then I'm going to do my edge stitch just like I have been doing throughout, gathering both of those loops on my hook. And then I will cut the yarn and pull that through for the Tunisian crossed stitch. I just love the texture that this crossed stitch creates with all of the X's lined up. I think it'd be really pretty on like a pillow or maybe a basket. I think it'd be a really cool texture for something like that for a home decor project. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you next time.